Okay, it being 7 o'clock, I'll call the June 7th, 2022 City Council meeting to order. Will you please join me in the flag salute?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
It looks like Councilor Farmer is unable to attend tonight, and we have Councilor Matthews and Mayor Benetti online. The next item on the agenda is public comments. If you would like to address the council about something that is not on the agenda, please step forward now.
Mike Vaughn, 598 North 4th Court, Coos Bay. I've been working on the mural with weather permitting and have been delayed by federal regulations on the railroad, which require the derailers to be put on both sides of the mural so that I don't get run over by a protocol. And they don't always respond on beautiful weather days. I waited 4 hours today to get some paint on the wall before the derailers got on. So the first schedule of the mural was going to expire the 19th of this month. And my $2 million bond expires the 30th. Kelly and I discussed extending that to the bond date, and I could use more time. However, I think I'll get there on time, and I've discussed this project with the North Bend City Council, and they're anxious to participate in a day where both councils will be painting a square foot on the mural, and that will probably be next week sometime, and I'll try to schedule that between parties and individuals that could make that possible. So I'm leaving out some squares, some simple ones that might be a good public relations opportunity. Currently, the mural has altered to these images, which shows the tugboats pushing the ship out into the channel. The first image that I presented had them in profile, at the side, not pushing on the ship, and it was rather dead. And the pilots thought you should be showing the energy of these boats, the 3,000 horsepower or whatever it is, pushing this enormous thing out into the channel. So when I turned those boats toward the ship, the foreshortening of them made them smaller. Instead of 25 feet long, they've become 12 feet long. And in the end, it shows the enormous scale of the ship is 650 feet long or something. And in scale, it still works. But I'd like to work with Kelly to try to extend my deadline and include both councils to work on the mural on the same day. So maybe right toward the end of it will be the last finishing touches. I brought a...
You're going past your 3 minutes, if the council's okay with that. Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
Go ahead.
This is the Liberty Theater, and I did a scale model of the Liberty, and it shows the 1931 blade signs, what they're called, in neon, and the marquee. And so we have received a Main Street program to cover the cost of this blade sign just last week. And so we, as a collective group are getting really good at grant writing and raising money to do things for our community. And I would like to direct some energy toward the boardwalk and do whatever is necessary to try to pursue grant money, to get it back to good condition. There's rotten things, there's leaking roofs, and a lot of homeless presence, and a lot of pigeon poop. It's because the fixtures that were put in place to prevent pigeons have been sat on by the pigeons and failed. So I play music down there every Sunday, and there's homeless laying around, and tourists coming in, and they see the conditions, and they're awestruck by conditions. And so it's not a good front porch to show people coming into town. I'd be willing to paint and clean and so forth, whatever we can do as a volunteer, and maybe even create a Friends of the Boardwalk nonprofit organization to try to do some good things. All right. Any questions?
No, thank you, Mike.
Right.
I look forward to going down there and painting. I'll take one of the solid black squares, though.
Yeah.
I already got one.
Okay. Well, they'll be available.
Okay, thank you.
And you have to wear a hard hat and proper boots and a bright vest. I'm sure the city can provide those for you. And we have to have a collective meeting that Rich Lopez tells you the rules before you go on the property. The safety meeting, basically about 10 minutes. So we'll make that happen as a group.
Okay.
Mike, I said it before, but I'm just so grateful for your time and commitment to public art. You have a real passion for it, and
Yep.
we are so fortunate as a community to have someone who is passionate about it. So thank you so much for your efforts and your work in that space.
Thank you. It's kind of a family thing. It's always been there.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody else that wants to make a public comment at this time? Seeing none, I'll move on to the next item, item number 3, the consent calendar.
I'll move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call for the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 4 is approval of Juneteenth proclamation. Is that you, Nicole, or Sammy?
Whereas President Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January 1st, 1863, declaring the slaves in Confederate territory free, paving the way for the passing of the 13th Amendment, which formally abolished slavery in the United States of America. And whereas word about the signing of the Emancipation Proclamation was delayed some 2.5 years to June 19, 1865, in reaching authorities and African Americans in the South and Southwestern United States, and whereas June 19th has a special meaning to African Americans and is called Juneteenth, combining the words June and 19th, and has been celebrated by the African American community for over 150 years, and whereas in its celebration of freedom, Juneteenth is a day that should be recognized by all Americans and remind us all of our incredible capacity to heal, hope, and emerge from our darkest moments with the purpose and resolve.
Now, therefore, I, Eddie, Mayor of the City of Coos Bay, and on behalf of the City Council, so do hereby proclaim June 19th, 2022 as Juneteenth in the City of Coos Bay, and encourage everyone to recommit ourselves to equality, equality, and justice.
Thank you, Sammy. Thank you, Mayor. Any council, how would you like to?
I move we approve the proclamation designating June 19th, 2022 as Juneteenth.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 5 is public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance to vacate right-of-way for a portion of North 8th Street. Jim?
I'll take this, thank you. Good evening. The city received a request to vacate a 30-foot by 100-foot portion of North 8th Street right-of-way just north of the Teakwood Avenue intersection. This was by the owner of the property adjacent to it, Tired Rose LLC. This property is Block 5 of the Plat H addition to Marshfield. They requested to vacate this portion of North 8th Street along the west edge of their property, and council initiated the vacation process for the said portion of North 8th Street on May 3rd of this year. City departments and utility providers have reviewed this request and none have any objections. And because the vacation area is within 1,000 feet of the bay, the International Port of Coos Bay is also required to approve, and the Port Commission approved the request at their May meeting. If it pleases the council, hold a public hearing following consideration to enact an ordinance to vacate a portion of North 8th Street adjacent to Block 5 of the Plat H addition to Marshfield.
Thank you, Jim. Before I open the public hearing, does council have any questions for Jim? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance to vacate right-of-way for a portion of North 8th Street. Does anybody have a comment they would like to make? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I move to enact an ordinance to vacate a portion of North 8th Street adjacent to Block 5 of the Plat H addition to Marshfield.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to enact the ordinance to vacate right-of-way for a portion of North 8th Street. Melissa?
An ordinance providing for the vacation of a portion of North 8th Street located in Plat H addition to the city of Marshfield in the northeast 1/4 of the southeast 1/4 of section 22, township 25 south, range 13 west, Willamette Meridian, Coos County, Oregon. Councilor DeNovo?
Aye.
Councilor Kilmer?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Miles?
Aye.
Councilor Stevens?
Aye.
Mayor Benetti?
Aye.
Ordinance number 556 has been duly enacted.
Thank you. Item number 6 is approval of upgrades to the 2014 water quality TV van. Is this
Good evening. Staff is proposing upgrades to the 2014 TV van utilized by the Water Quality Division. The upgrades consist of camera, video equipment, and software. A major duty performed by the Water Quality Division's collection crew is investigating sanitary sewer and storm. This is accomplished with a video camera. In 2014, the city purchased a vehicle outfitted with video investigation capabilities. While the cameras and cables are only 8 years old, the environment in which this equipment is utilized can be harsh and does affect the useful life. And with most technology, due to the age of the equipment, it is now unsupported by the manufacturer. The vehicle is still functional, however, staff has recommended replacement of the video equipment. According to section 6.0 of resolution 22-02, amending public contracting rules, the Oregon Public Contracting Code does not apply to this type of upgrade equipment purchase. However, where practicable, the competitive quote shall be obtained. Staff reached out to 3 vendors and had each of them demonstrate their equipment and associated software. The 3 quotes obtained are as follows: Coos for $161,271, True North equipment for $159,355.16, and SWS equipment for $235,219.92. While it was hard to compare these 3 quotes due to differing technology, components, and software options, staff's preferred vendor was Coos. In looking at the quotes, it was not the lowest price. However, the Coos software did not have a limit on the number of licenses that could be utilized on desktops and tablets, whereas the True North equipment was only for one license, and any additional licenses would cost $5,747.50 each. It is anticipated that at least 3 additional licenses would be needed, which would cause the quote from True North equipment to exceed the Coos quote. Purchasing this equipment allows the collection crew to continue investigating and archiving the recording of the sewer system, which helps identify deficiencies needing corrective action. And I ran a quick 8-year life cycle cost because like most software, there's subscription fees, maintenance fees. And the Coos and the True North equipment still come out very close. The Coos is $204,000, and the True North is $203,000 for over the 8-year life cycle. And then SWS was not a whole lot more than their original quote there for $253,000. They had quite a bit less in their subscription fees, but they came in with a much higher initial cost.
Thank you. Any questions?
I remember, I think we tried to get you to commit to that we would have this longer than 8 years in our work session, but I think you reminded us that software sunset, so we probably can expect to see this coming before the council 8 years from now. Is that accurate?
You know, I think to play on the safe side for whoever presents this next, I would say yes.
Okay.
I, of course, don't want to hope it lasts as long as it can, but I would anticipate that.
Okay, thank you. And just actually one more question. So really, the investment of the software allows us to have a camera to look at the system, and ultimately we're saving so much more by having this camera in place for just the camera in place.
Yeah, you know, I think to me the biggest value is that we plan millions of dollars worth of work based on a lot of just what we see with this camera. And you know, if we can prioritize all the different lines out there based on having a better understanding of what's going on there, we get tremendous value out of choosing the right projects to spend money on.
Okay, thank you.
That was my question. And also just for the members of the public, how often this is used, you addressed that. This is maybe not daily, but it's used pretty much every week.
Yeah, absolutely. Multiple times a week. Not quite daily, but very frequently.
And I understand this equipment's going to give you a much better picture of what's in the pipe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, comments? How would you like to proceed?
I'll move to approve, or I'll make a motion to approve the upgrades to the 2014 TV van in an amount not to exceed $161,271.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 7. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm next too.
That's all you're next to?
You're still here.
Okay. Item number 7 is public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance establishing the fats, oils, and grease policy and pretreatment device funding program.
City staff is presenting for enactment of fats, oils, and grease ordinance and adoption of pretreatment device funding program. The FOG ordinance includes an exception to requiring a FOG pretreatment device for food service establishments based on polar oil loading. At the February 2022 work session, city staff presented the proposed FOG ordinance. City Council appeared to be in favor of the proposed ordinance, aside from allowing for an exception to requiring a FOG pretreatment device based on the establishment's polar oil loading being less than 100 milligrams per liter. When city staff discussed this further, it was thought that since this discharge is allowable under Coos Bay Municipal Code 13.15.030.5, that a more stringent criterion would not be in keeping with the current municipal code. Because of this, it is recommended that this exception remain in the final fog ordinance. During the same work session, city staff also presented the proposed fog pretreatment program. The program was proposed to reimburse businesses that installed a pretreatment device because of the ordinance over the course of 3 years. City council believed that the reimbursement should happen after the device was installed. The new proposed program will reimburse businesses within 30 days of city staff receiving proof of the pretreatment device installation contractor has been paid.
Thank you. Council, do you have any questions for Stefan before I open the public hearing?
Stefan, remind me, we've been talking about this for quite some time, and if I remember correctly, I think it was last year, we did a survey and we reached out to restaurants. Can you speak to that?
Yes, so about half had some sort of capability of pretreatment device, and then the other half didn't have anything. And then there's also, I guess, a whole another half that didn't respond. So it would unknown.
Okay.
So I guess a quarter, half.
You also did some outreach where you had several meetings that restaurateurs were invited to
Yeah, I think there might have been 6 of them.
at different times of the day, different days of the week.
Yep, yeah. There was pretty minimal turnout. And then there was a letter that got handed out to there that was from a local restaurant owner.
There wasn't any date on that. When was that just received?
That was forwarded to me just today, and I'm sorry, I don't know when that.
I think it was received a little over a week ago.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I think what's important is that what we're trying to do is better manage the system. Currently, there are a number of restaurants, and the fact that a number of them don't use grease traps, a lot of that grease goes down into the drain and then through the main system, and that's what goes in and starts clogging up the main. If we're not cleaning those mains and on a frequent basis, it can cause backups. But the fact that staff is constantly cleaning those drains for the lack of care by the restaurateurs or others that put grease in the system, that limits their ability to do other projects and to maintain the system. This is more of a best practice type of model that's being used around the country.
I was going to say, how common is this in other cities?
I
To have
couldn't
a-
say with
have a-
certainty, but the
Quite
city did
common.
use a consultant to assist us, and that's what that person does for a living, is assist cities in implementing these programs.
The other thing is that we've actually had this discussion on this for how long?
Well, it's been on your council goals for the last 2 years.
Okay.
The other thing to speak to Rogers, it is real time that the crews get to spend doing other repairs, and they do a really good job of getting out there and making real repairs instead of just trying to keep up after these clogging incidents.
I thought this funding program, though, we're more generous than other cities through this program. Is that correct, Roger?
I don't know of another city that
Is
will
doing it.
actually refund
Right.
the cost of that. So I think the council was wise in trying to ease the burden on the restaurateurs or other organizations that do cook.
Okay.
And I remember at one point, one of the meetings where we had this before us, it may have been a work session, it was just a day or two prior to that, that we had a clog, a pretty significant one that took up multiple staff's time just to clean and then do all the reporting and everything that has to be done with that. So it's not like when we're at home and we have too much hair in the sink and we got to take a little thing down and clean the hair out of a drain. This is a pretty significant issue that staff is dealing with and why it came before the council. It's a significant cost.
Yeah, and then I'd say far beyond that too is keeping those clogs from ever happening. Is there's the routine maintenance that we have to get to before that even happens. Is There's lines that are just kind of regularly scheduled that we have to go out and clean them, so it doesn't back up.
So if everyone was using this device appropriately, how much do you think that would save in time and money? Estimate.
I figured about, a total like 2 weeks a year, if you added everything up of crew time, probably at the very least. I think that's trying to be pretty conservative, under promise, I guess, what I believe we can save.
That's just in staff time, though. It doesn't talk about any of the other expenses.
Yeah.
One other question, and then we'll actually get to people who have been in the restaurant industry, but restaurants aren't the only thing that contribute to the fat, oil, and grease. I mean, I know as a kid, my dad used to always run that stuff, but the volume that comes from a restaurant is why this program is being implemented.
Yeah, definitely. We see it so much more from, and you see it too in some residential places where it's, who knows what's going on, but it is obvious that there's a difference between some places and others. But especially with restaurants, you could go down, look down the line, and be able to pick out which one's a restaurant just by looking up the lateral.
Which is why we're circling back to trying to mitigate this problem before it even happens.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you determine which businesses need to follow this?
So this is based on their discharge of oil being 100 milligrams per liter. I don't know how exactly you do that. You take samples. I think the idea would be that it's everybody that's a restaurant owner until they can demonstrate that they really truly are not discharging oils. And so the burden's on them to prove that. Otherwise, you have to get the pretreatment device.
Thank you. Any?
Stephen or Roger, this also includes any food operations. So, for instance, Fred Meyer, Safeway, any of those establishments that produce food in any fashion, but without the same guidelines. Am I correct?
That's correct. Or manufacturing, chocolates or something. Or
And Stephen, if I remember correctly, Roger, maybe you can refresh my memory. The consultant we had, they did brought some information about the California county that did this and initiated it, and I thought they saved much more than 2 weeks. I thought it was significant, like 50% of their time and their use of their fines because of this initiation.
And I think that was from a much larger area where they would have a multiple crews even dedicated to strictly cleaning lines. So I think you're going to see a much larger increase in that situation. So our collections crew, does a lot more than just cleaning the lines. And you're right. I really think it would add up to more than that. I just, I don't want to give the impression that it's going to be this. I would say there's no way we're going to spend 50% less time in our days and spend it on other things, because we spend more of our days than that cleaning lines. If it was a reduction in 50% of line cleaning, maybe that'd be more likely. But I'd say there's small portion of our time, not small, but is spent cleaning lines.
But also it impacts our wastewater itself in operation and maintenance.
Absolutely, yeah, and the longevity of the pipelines there. So a lot of these lines are old, 70, 80-year-old concrete lines, and every time we pretty much pressure wash them, it deteriorates the lines, and then it comes into the treatment system, which is also difficult to handle. So yeah, there's quite a few additional benefits.
Can you address why we're asking to have a professional service as opposed to letting an owner or operator
The idea is that it will happen correctly. I think it's for the person that there's a, who knows how they're going to do it, how they're going to perform the cleaning. We all want to hope that everybody's going to do things correctly and on time, but it's easier to track and manage if it's a professional organization that's doing it and have confidence that it's being done correctly.
Mr. Mayor, if I remember correctly, that was a concern for you. Forgive me, I'm not remembering the entire conversation, though. You and Carmen being, a previous restaurant owner and Carmen being a current restaurant owner. Do you remember that conversation, and can you shed some light on it?
Sure. So there's a professional cleaning crews that come in and can do this, and then we did initiate this in the city, I believe. Then we would have to have staff go out and do a check. And professional service knows how often the grease trap needs to be done. Depends on the need. I know I had my restaurant during the summer that would need done on a monthly basis. Not in the summer, it's not as busy a time as in the year before. And they could determine this in the proper way. The other thing is disposing of the grease itself. You need some way to do that. These entities can do that and do it on a regular basis. If we did it ourselves, we'd have to have a grease drum or something to fit. For a lot of it, I know, I've seen it myself, or a restaurant, garbage cleaner. That means another problem in the landfill, sending up garbage dumps, and so that becomes another issue. So on a professional method, it makes it clean and make sure that it's being done on a regular basis, being done appropriately.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. I think that's, anybody have any other further discussion? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So with that, I'll open the public hearing to consider enactment of ordinance establishing the fats, oils, and grease policy and pretreatment device funding program. Do we have anybody here that would like to make a comment on this subject? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I forgot, do we make the motion and then discussion? Sorry, I'm
Oh,
having a
did
moment.
you want to have a discussion?
No, we can,
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion, sorry. I will move to enact the FOG ordinance and pretreatment device funding program.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Was there any further discussion?
I just wanted to
I
acknowledge.
just think that, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I just think it's important that we go ahead and enact this, and it's a benefit for all citizens of Coos Bay. We just put in $23 in plant two. We're looking at probably that same, if not more, and all this contributes to those costs. I think it's a fair, equitable way for the restaurants, and I think it'd be a benefit to the restaurants. It'll help them also with an operation. This way, we'll know that it's being timely manner and appropriate, and when it needs to be done. So I appreciate all the work the staff has done at these participants for the last 2 years, and so I look supporting this.
I just wanted to acknowledge the letter that we received from some of the downtown business owners, and I think Mr. Mayor eloquently stated why we are supportive of this program, and I think we should also, I don't want to say commend ourselves, but I think we're progressive in the sense that we're actually going to fund this project over a 3-year period, so I'm in full support of this program.
Thank you. Anybody else have any comments?
This is Carmen. I'll go ahead and chime in as well. I just had my grease trap cleaned today, and it needed it, and I have bumped up the frequency based on recommendations from our cleaning service. And when paired with working with the city, got a chance to hop into the camera rig that they have and look at our lateral before, and noticed that there was on an even more aggressive schedule now. And I really do think that this is something that needs to be done. Be responsible for our own refuse and to do this in a proper way to secure the livelihood and longevity of all of our systems. And the sewer system is one that we all rely on, especially in the restaurant business. So I'm in full support as well.
Thank you, Carmen.
Just a question of Councilor Matthews. What is, just out of curiosity, what is an average frequency for a restaurant?
So I used to get it done every quarter. That was not enough. I'm now getting my grease trap every 6 weeks. That is all on the basis of the size of your grease trap and the amount that you're really putting through the pieces. So as we got busier, we needed to do it more frequently. My new restaurant location has a grease trap that double the size of the one that I had originally. So that one can go a little bit longer. But I just deferred it to the professionals, the people who are making them, and see them and look like to guidance on the frequency.
So just a comment, I appreciate that, I know I put you on the spot, that it might be good if there is something happening around where people that will be affected by this ordinance, if it is enacted, would be able to take a look and see what they're helping to take care of on those laterals. I don't know if that's ever a possibility, but to let them know if you're in the area and their TV truck is there and they can see it. So.
Yeah, that was helpful. I just got lucky. I had to see crew helping while they were cleaning the main line, and they had their TV truck out there. I was like, oh, hey, see what's going on? Coming there about pipes and movement of water and such. So it was really cool that they were able to let me see what the lateral looked like. And definitely see buildup, and that's something that can be cleaned. In addition to preventative maintenance of cleaning the grease trap on a routine schedule.
Councilor Matthews, what's the cost? Would you mind sharing the cost of cleaning the grease trap with the services?
I believe my fee for today was $110.
Okay. So every...
But, they found a little bolt for one of my pieces of machinery that cost $130. So it was a net gain for the day.
Thank you.
So, Stefan, this new truck that we just passed to buy, this water quality truck, it does all the filming. I'm sure there was an individual came up or a business said, can you show me my TV line or film on it? I'm sure you have.
Of course, yeah, and it's all recorded, so we don't...
Can you come up to the mic?
Of course. Yeah, of course. And we do record it too and store all of that too. So even if they don't catch us right at the time, a lot of times we have record of that. We don't TV, for our line cleanings, we don't necessarily TV it every time just because it takes extra effort to do the TVing, but a lot of times we do. But absolutely, it's easy information to get.
Thank you.
Yeah, just referencing Carmen's comment, same thing happened to me, and I think, I'm sure we don't really get an opportunity to look, we don't maybe realize, same thing happened to me. One of the people I knew that TV the line told me that they saw a lot of worms, but it wasn't spaghetti. So the point being is that if you don't realize it, sometimes you're not able to address it. And I know that the grease traps are not maintained properly, they're not effective because basically the grease and the food just goes right down the sewer line. And so
Thank you, Mayor. Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second to consider enactment of an ordinance establishing the fats, oils, and grease policy and pretreatment device funding program. Melissa?
An ordinance establishing a fats, oils, and grease management program and amending the Coos Bay Municipal Code by adding Chapter 13.25. Counselor DeNovo.
Aye.
Counselor Kilmer.
Aye.
Counselor Matthews.
Aye.
Counselor Miles.
Aye.
Counselor Stevens.
Aye.
Mayor Benetti.
Aye.
Ordinance number 557 has been duly enacted.
Thank you, Melissa. Item number 8, public hearing on the use of revenue sharing funds. Approval to accept the funds would require adoption of Resolution 22-13. This you, Nicole?
That is, thank you. Each year, in order to participate in the Oregon State Revenue Sharing Program, we, as a municipality, need to hold a public hearing and give our citizens an opportunity to participate in that process. We hold that public hearing before the Budget Committee, which happened in May, on May 12th, and then also here tonight. That was noticed for public hearing tonight. We get state revenue sharing from state liquor taxes. Most all of these are part of a formula that's established by the state. It's collected by the state and then sent out in a share based on population for municipalities. So what we're asking tonight is to have that public hearing. We've already addressed those revenues coming into the budget and the different uses we use those for. It's a portion we use for community contributions, grants. And so we're just asking for you to hold a public hearing and allow some public input.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Does anybody have any questions for Nicole before I open the public hearing?
Nicole, could you remind us how much money we're talking about?
Yes, so going back a few years, in the 1920 year, we got about $189,000 there. And this next year, I believe we are budgeting around $175,000 in state revenue sharing. And we try to contribute a portion of that to that community grant program each year.
Okay, thank you.
On average, you budget around 25% of that to go back out, and this year's budget is $42,000, and grants include alternative youth activities, Kids Hope Center, Boys and Girls Club, Southwestern Oregon Veterans Outreach, Coos County Habitat for Humanities, and Oregon Coast Community Actions Program, CASA, or court-appointed special advocates.
Thank you, Roger.
So before I open the public hearing, I need to declare a perceived conflict of interest because I work for the Boys and Girls Club. Can you explain?
That's not a true conflict, but it's something that I think is appropriate to disclose as you have, but you can still vote on the matter because you don't have any personal financial interest in it.
Thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Nicole before I open the public hearing? Okay, I'll open the public hearing on the use of revenue sharing funds. Approval to accept the funds would require adoption of Resolution 22-13. Anybody have any comments? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 22-13, accepting state revenue sharing funds.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 22-13, accepting revenue sharing funds. Any further discussion? Melissa? Oh, wait, this is not a roll call, is it? I'll call for the question then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 9, public hearing on the approved fiscal year 22-2023 budget. You again?
That's my turn again, thank you. So each year we walk through the budget process, which involves a presentation before the Budget Committee, which includes members of the council here and a like number of citizens who participate in that process. We had that Budget Committee meeting in May, and they reviewed the proposed proposed budget that staff had worked to prepare, that was approved, and that next step in the process is to bring that here to council for you to review and potentially adopt that budget. Part of that process, again, is a public process, so we are asking you would hold a public meeting, a hearing, to accept any public comments, or any questions, I guess, perhaps.
Thank you, Nicole. Does anybody have any questions for Nicole before I open the public hearing? Hearing none, I'll open the public hearing on the approved fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Adoption of Resolution 22-14 would adopt the budget, make appropriations, and levy ad valorem taxes. Does anybody have a public comment on this year's budget? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing. Council, how would you like to proceed?
I move to adopt Resolution 2014, adopting the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 10. By the way, thank you to Nicole and everyone involved in putting the budget together and the budget committee members. It says a lot when we can get all through that budget in one evening. Item number 10, consider adoption of Resolution 22-15 to increase sewer user fees by 5.5%. Is it
I
you,
got
Jim?
this one? Sure. The city's wastewater rate consultant has recommended a 5.5% rate increase for the next fiscal year. This recommendation was based on evaluation of the city's forecasted wastewater operations and maintenance costs for next year, together with proposed construction projects and debt service. The City of Coos Bay Budget Committee concluded the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget meeting on May 12th with approval of the proposed budget, which included a 5.5% increase in sewer user rates. In order to implement the sewer user rate adjustment commencing in July 2022 billing cycle, Resolution 2214 would need to be approved. The sewer fee portion of the Coos Bay North Bend Water Board billing will increase based on the rate study average use of 560 cubic feet of water per household. That's approximately a $4.18 per month increase for users. The revenue will provide funding for operation and maintenance, sewer line replacement, pump station rehabilitation, storm drain repairs, and the capital improvements plan for the next fiscal year. Last year's rate increase was also 5.5%. The wastewater user fees are used to operate and maintain the city's 2 wastewater treatment plants. We're unusual in that we have 2 wastewater plants compared to most communities, even larger than ours, typically have 1. We also have 2 dozen pump stations and over 90 miles of sewer mains. It's rare for a city, like I said, the size of Coos Bay to have these 2 wastewater treatment plants or that many pump stations. The user fees are used to pay debt service on loans for capital improvements to replace or refurbish the treatment plants, pump stations, and sewer mains. And typical upgrade to our pump stations is $1 million each. And we have over 24, and each of those typically have a lifespan of 20 years. So we have to have a pump station under repair and refurbishment each year to stay ahead of the game. The city uses a rate consultant to recommend the necessary rate increases to pay for these costs. Some of the upcoming projects associated with this recommended rate increase include wastewater treatment plant 1 upgrade, the design thereof, several sewer line and storm line repair projects, and sponsorship option water quality projects that include green parking lots.
By steadily raising sewer user rates annually over the past several years, City Council has not had to implement a steep rate hike spike in order to ensure adequate funding. In the past, there were years, maybe 2 or 3, maybe more years in a row where there were no rate increases, and council then had to come back and do double-digit rate increases. You haven't had to do that for probably the last 10 years. Included in this report is a comparison of rates from other communities along with the history of rate increases, and they're attached to your report. Approving the resolution at this time will provide the Coos Bay North Bend Water Board time to change their computer programming and provide a full 12 months of billing at the adjusted rate. The adjustment is projected to provide $385,000 in additional sewer fee revenue next fiscal year over the sewer fee revenue for the current fiscal year. If it pleases the council, if you would consider adopting Resolution 2215, adjusting sewer user rates, charges, and fees.
Jim, my husband would often, tell me that we live in one of the last great places in the edge of the known world, and because we live in this great place, the topography of this area is uniquely different. Thus, that's part of the reason we have the 2 wastewater treatment plants and all the pumps, correct?
That's correct.
So we live in a beautiful place, but we have to pay for it too.
Yes. And we've explored in the past options to create just one sewer plant, and the costs were astronomical. So what the system we have in place is, like you said, it's due to the circumstances in which we live, the geography.
In looking at going to one processing plant, would that have changed the number of pump stations or lines? I don't know how many miles of lines we have. Would that have changed any of that?
No,
to
it would
create
have probably added more pumping. Jim, this 5.5%, if I remember correctly, that's actually less than what the rate consultant had estimated. Wasn't the original 6.5% he estimated? He had estimated that for perpetuity, we'd have to do it at 6.5%. And the last couple of years, we've been able to trim that down to 5.5%. Thank you.
Roger, did you want to say something?
Well, I was just going to point out, you just approved a budget that includes just a little over $10 million in capital projects to, and I'll call them stewardship projects, because you have to maintain your utilities so it works not only today, but into the future. And given some of your pipes are 90 years old, and your Plant 1, which is the plant behind Motel 6, the original bones of that were built in 1958. It's due for a major upgrade. So you constantly have to put money into that system in order to make it. And this is an enterprise. It's a user-pay system. We are fortunate that we do get part of those costs that are also borne by the Bunker Hill Sanitary District, as well as the Charleston Sanitary District, which helps us in building and maintaining our infrastructure.
Thank you, Roger. Anybody have any questions or comments? Hearing none, how would council like to proceed on this matter?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 22-15, adjusting sewer user rates, charges, and fees.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 22-15, adjusting sewer user rates, charges, and fees. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 11, City Manager's Report.
Thank you. I'm hoping to keep this somewhat short tonight. I know that there's a number of people here, and I'm assuming they're here for the next meeting. And then we have, in essence, 2 executive sessions after that. I just wanted to give you an update. It's been the council's desire to add a wash-to-shore art
exhibit. Staff met with representatives from Washita Shore, and I think I did put a picture of the art that's going to be placed at the Freeway. It's going to be a permanent exhibit. If I remember right, Jim, I think it's 12 to 14 feet tall. It's a large piece of art. We'll be putting this in our Friday update this weekend so that we can share it with the public. It's scheduled to go in sometime in or around November of this year. In the meantime, staff's working on prepping for that. We'll probably be checking to make sure the concrete is sufficiently thick enough. If not, we'll have to replace a piece. And then we're also getting some fencing, of course, wrought iron fencing, not chain link fencing, so that it'll fit in within that. And we've placed it in such a manner so that you can see it from 101, but it won't be in the way of those that want to have pictures taken with the Prefontaine mural. So that's exciting, and it does seem like it's the week of art, because I did take a picture, and evidently Mike's a lot quicker. Oh, he's already left. He's a lot quicker with his brush than I am with a camera, because I took a picture of the outline of the new tug that's on the mural wall, and he's already painted one of them in. In addition, the nice weather yesterday, we had people that are associated with the Coos Bay Downtown Association out painting the murals on the utility boxes downtown. It's a new program, which is a partnership through Pacific Power and the Coos Bay Downtown Association. So it's actually improving what I always refer to as our sense of place, and there's certainly a lot of projects going on.
Roger, will we have any interpretive signage next to the Washita Shore piece?
We will. We'll probably put together the sign mounts, and they'll provide the sign.
And will there be any lighting, any uplighting or anything for the evening hours?
I'll have to look at that, but I believe there's lighting in the freeway.
Okay, great, thanks.
I wanted to share something exciting. We got notification, I think it was early this week, official notification. As you know, we created a couple years ago a community resource officer. That officer works with our unsheltered community. And one of the unique challenges of that, he does a fair amount of duties, from anything from transporting someone to services, or in some cases to the jail, depending on behaviors. Others, he's collecting items and cleaning up camps. It's a unique position, and it's often difficult because he's often having to change vehicles out. He put some information together, and with the help of Tara Johnson from the Nancy Devereaux Center, they put together a grant request to Advance Health. And Advance Health approved a purchase of a pursuit-rated police pickup that would have the ability not only to be able to haul things, but also to have I always call them a customer compartment in the back for when transporting customers. And they're paying not only for the pickup and all of the outfitting, which means the necessary lights, radios, all that equipment, not to exceed $67,000. So it's fully funded. So it's a nice purchase. And then lastly, I wanted to share with you that I'm going to be honing my after retirement skills tomorrow down at Abby's Pizza as I help the Lions Club Pizza Day. They've given me a job that I might be qualified for, and I'll be washing dishes. So if you get a chance to come on down, I would be happy to give you a tour of the dishwashing station. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Thank you, Roger. Next, item number 12 is council comments. Carmen?
I don't have any tonight.
Thank you. Mayor?
Well, first of all, Rob, I want to thank you for filling in for me. It's always appreciated. I also want to mention that our resource officer, Officer Adams, is a great asset to our community, and he does so much help us in so many ways. And Roger, if you need some washing dishes, you can ask Carmen or myself. We should help you out.
Thank you, Mayor. Lucinda?
Roger, I just had a question. I think we saw in the news that the Behavioral and Mental Health Department closure of Bay Area Hospital. And I know that's a concern for this city and a concern for the citizens of this area. Have we been in any conversation with the hospital, letting them know of our concerns?
We have. There's been a number of stakeholders that recently met with the CEO of Bay Area Hospital, as well as a number of their physicians and their board of directors. Those conversations are ongoing. It's our desire to do what we can to keep that center open. It's extremely important to this community. It's a vital component. Will we be successful? I'd like to say I'd hope so, but that's yet to be determined.
Thank you. The only other comment I wanted to make is that the Mill Casino at the end of this month, June 21st through 26th, is hosting for the third time the Family Motor Coach Northwest Area Association rally that brings about 500 people into this community, and we work really hard to get them out in the community. So we have city tours in Coos Bay and North Bend. We're doing a wine walk for them, and I think Mayor Benetti will be greeting the group, but they will be in our community for a week, spending money in our restaurants, buying gas and all that fun stuff. So we're looking forward to, again, hosting that event. And one of the reasons we get to host that event is not only the hospitality of our organization, but truly the friendliness and hospitality of this community. So we're really excited about it. And that's all I have.
Stephanie?
Just to add to that wine walk mention there, that is a special wine walk that helps fund grants that the Coos Bay North Bend Rotary gives back to nonprofit organizations, and they will be doing that special wine walk in conjunction with the Mill Casino and the Coos Bay Downtown Association. It also gets people into our businesses downtown and along Front Street. Extremely popular to get out of doors, happens rain or shine, and so it's a good opportunity to socialize and help the organizations. The Downtown Coos Bay Wine Walk has a Facebook page, and you can check there to see who the beneficiaries of that will be. It starts at the Visitors Information Center, and a donation gets you a wine glass, and then that money is turned around and put into right back into our community and precious services that we have here. So just wanted to mention that. Also, speaking of the Coos Bay Downtown Association, it might be good if you're having a conversation, I will reach out to Holly or the committee, the appropriate committee, regarding maybe some help with the grant for the Front Street Boardwalk. That might be a good place to, they have a foundation. So, and they're always looking, they're getting lots more volunteers, so that might be something that they could have a task force take on. And I know that, the FOG program has an added component for folks that have struggled through the last couple of years through a pandemic, and I know that this council is sensitive to that. But we represent not just the business community, but the community as a whole, in making sure that our infrastructure is ready and good and able to serve our community far into the future. So I just wanted to say that we are always trying to be considerate of what business faces and struggles with. So just wanted to mention that. That's all I had.
Thank you, Stephanie. Sarah?
Thanks, no comments for me tonight.
Okay, the only thing I have tonight is I want to thank the Coos Bay Fire Department and the Coos Bay Police Department for participating in the Boys and Girls Club birthday bash a couple weekends ago. I didn't realize that we had a fire dog now. It's pretty neat seeing them out there. And so thank you for that. And that's all I have for tonight. We will have an executive session, but it'll be after the urban renewal meeting. So I will recess the council meeting and hand it over to Chair Kilmer for the urban renewal meeting.
Okay, and I will go ahead and call the meeting of the Coos Bay Urban Renewal Agency to order, and just mention right off the bat that there will be an executive session at the end of that meeting for not only the council, but also for the Urban Renewal Agency, and we will not come back into session following those executive sessions. So the first item on our agenda for the Urban Renewal Agency is public comments, so I would open it up. If somebody has something that they would like to bring before the agency that is not already on the agenda, you are welcome to come up to the microphone. And sensing none, we will move on to item 2, which is the consent calendar. And how would the agency like to proceed?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the consent calendar. Any discussion? All those in favor? Say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is the public hearing on the approved budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and the adoption of Resolution 2205. So you're going to handle that one now too, Nicole?
I am, thank you.
All right.
Each year, the agency is presented with a budget, which has gone through a process of staff preparation for presentation to the Budget Committee, which is comprised of the agency members and a like number of members from our community. The Budget Committee met in May and reviewed that budget, recommended it to council through the approval process. So what you're seeing tonight is their recommended approved budget. The budget process by local budget law requires that the agency hold a public hearing so you can take public comment if there's any questions or comments from the public. And then we are recommending that review of the budget would result in the agency adopting the budget for next fiscal year.
All right, are there any questions from the agency before we open the public hearing? Then I will go ahead and open the public hearing on the budget, 2022-2023 budget. Do we have any comments regarding the budget? Then I will close the public hearing and move to action on that. How would the agency like to proceed?
I'll move to adopt Resolution 22-05, approving the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the budget for 2022-2023 and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And our next item is a discussion with approval for funding request from the Coos History Museum. Is that you, Roger?
It is.
Okay.
Thank you. It's been a long held community desire to connect the boardwalks all the way from Coos Bay to North Bend, and many projects have taken place over the years, although it's a difficult process to put together. The most recent addition to the walkway was the walkway, or the public walkway that is on the eastern side of Coos Bay Village. I believe it's 1,400 linear feet. That's on the back side of that, and it's protected for public access through an easement that runs with the title of the property. The council and the Urban Renewal Agency have long desired to, in addition to the walkway, was to improve Front Street. And currently, the agency is undergoing, and you're close to adoption of the Front Street blueprint. That will work on that area that's from the boardwalk all the way up to the History Museum. And the goal in that is to improve connectivity. And it's multimodal connectivity. It's not just for vehicles, and it obviously does include the train, but it's really about pedestrian and bicyclists as well. We have been in talks with the Coos History Museum about connecting their walkway, connecting a walkway for them to the Coos Bay Village walkway, and then later connecting to Front Street. We received a grant request from their executive director in the amount of $250,000 to create a walkway that would run from the northern boundary of their property on the east side, or near the water, all the way to their southern boundary, which is by the Welcome boat. It is not a simple task. It's a fairly wide walkway. It includes some retaining walls because there's a bioswale there. Plus, it connects. It would have a ADA ramp, and then stainless steel. I wouldn't say fencing, but a guardrail. If nothing else, guardrail doesn't sound very nice, does it?
Roger, it's similar. It's the exact same that's in front of Coos Bay Village now, correct? That rail?
That is correct.
Okay.
So it would actually connect that for that. The agency met and discussed this project, and you asked at that time, and I believe it was Mayor Benetti asked, would the museum consider gifting a small triangle of land on the most southern edge of their property, which is on the other side of the small retaining wall or their plaza, so that in the future we could connect the walkway to Front Street. The museum board met and they agreed to that. So what I'm requesting of you tonight is that the agency approve the $250,000 grant request. We would provide that to the museum. The museum would contract directly with the contractor, and it's going to be the same contractor that did Coos Bay Villages. And then in return, we'll work to get the identified property donated. It's a little bit of a process, and what I would say, we do this subsequent to a grant agreement.
Roger, if I remember, if we grant this, the History Museum could get started on that rail almost immediately, so we would see that happen in the next few months. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to disclose a perceived conflict of interest. I'm a Board of Trustee member for the Coos History Museum.
It's not a true conflict, but, it's good to disclose that.
Nate, how many times have you had to say that for us?
Well, it's what I do.
That's what I do. All right. Are there any other questions from the agency? I will say that sometimes to see future development, it takes one, and I think we've seen that with the Coos Bay Village development, and then the plans coming together. So it'll be very exciting to see.
Yep. Sarah may argue that the Coos History Museum started it all.
Well, it's
Yes.
true.
It's true. It's true.
I was just trying to go as far north as I could. Maybe the Coast Guard would. I don't know. All right. So how would the agency like to proceed?
I'll move to approve the $250,000 funding request for the Coos History Museum to fund the proposed waterfront walkway on the eastern side of the museum property, subsequent to entering a grant agreement for the project and to transfer ownership of the property south of the museum plaza to the city of Coos Bay.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to approve the $250,000 of funding to the Coos History Museum to fund the proposed waterfront walkway. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? The motion carries. The next item we have is the grant request for 127 Ingersoll Avenue. And
I've got
Jim,
this one.
Jim's got that.
Yes. The owners of Expert Towing and Auto Sale at 127 Ingersoll They're at the intersection of Ingersoll and the State Highway. Have requested a $25,000 improvement program grant for the improvements of their property there to be used for driveway, access, and parking area paving, as well as fencing of the property. The owner hopes the fencing will help deter theft from the site and provide visual enhancement to the property. Since moving to this location, the applicant has removed a dilapidated section of the structure and is in the process of making other exterior improvements like siding replacements. The applicant provided 2 bids for the paving and 2 bids for the fencing. Based on the lowest bid for each element, the cost for the proposed project will be a minimum of $43,587.44. The applicant indicated they had been advised material costs will increase any time after June 1st. The applicant is requesting a $25,000 grant, which is 57% of the eligible expenses. If you were to approve this grant along with the others tonight, you'll see through the attached Downtown Improvement Program grant tracking document that there will be just over $105,000 remaining in the budget for the grant program for the rest of this fiscal year, which isn't much longer. If it pleases the agency, approve the $25,000 improvement program grant request for 127 Ingersoll Avenue.
All right. Is the applicant here, or are there any questions from the agency regarding this application? Do you have anything you'd like to add? If you could, please come to the microphone, so.
We're going to make you more nervous, so you got to come all the way up here. I know.
Well, since we've moved in, we've tried to really, bolster the property and make it so much more appealing. And so this is just more enhancement that's going to really make the property look amazing. And we're really proud of it. And we would appreciate it if, we could get the help from the city.
Great.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Appreciate putting on, thank you for letting me put you on the spot there.
So I would just mention that this goes right along with the goals of the agency. In addition, paving that parking lot has a huge benefit for city streets. It's always difficult when we have gravel parking lots or actually gravel roads, because that gravel just doesn't stay there. It actually migrates onto pavement, and that does grind and wear on that pavement. So this is a great benefit for the city as well, and I agree it's going to be a great asset to clean that up. And the fencing they've chosen, it's not just chain link fencing, it is a wrought iron fence, and that'll add to the visual appearance of the lot.
Any other questions?
I just want to thank Sharon, the owner, for all of the work that you've done so far on it, and I hope that we pass this so we can see the rest of the work happen, so thank you.
Nicole, so according to the tracking here, we have $260,104 available at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's not spent, it carries over to next year, correct?
Correct. And so we would wait, once that carries over, we'll wait and kind of see, we like to wait till the auditors have been here. And then we like to true that up. So whatever carries forward, we'll come to you with a resolution to increase next year's improvement program line item to bring those funds into next year.
And that'll include all the approved and unpaid projects?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
All right, any other questions or comments? Then how would the agency like to proceed?
I move to approve the $25,000 improvement program grant request for 127 Ingersoll Avenue.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second to approve the $25,000 improvement program grant for 127 Ingersoll Avenue. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Our next item is a grant request for 225 West Lockhart Avenue. Jim, do you have this one as well?
I do.
All right.
Since relocating the business Pro Diesel Auto Repair at 225 West Lockhart in 2021, Mr. Ledesma has done substantial interior and exterior building improvements, and they were completed for approximately $80,000. And in October of 2021, the agency awarded Mr. Ledesma a $20,000 improvement grant to help fund the facade improvements on the north elevation of the Pro Diesel Auto Repair. The project was successfully completed in April, and the grant funds were issued. The grant guidelines specify owners of commercial buildings or business owners are eligible for one grant in any fiscal year period, July 1 through June 30th. The agency has the ability to award a second grant in the same fiscal year, just as the agency can award an amount in excess of 50% of the improvement cost or with only one bid. Mr. Ledesma provided one bid for the project and was expecting a second bid, which did indeed arrive before today's meeting. The submitted bid was $59,003 for the work. The second bid that we received today was for $146,280, so considerably more.
Book your first bid.
What's
Yes.
why the large difference?
Yeah.
I think because the contractors have more work than they can possibly get done, that they make these large bids.
They don't want the job, is what you're saying, Jay?
Right.
So they,
And if they do it, then they want to get well compensated.
okay.
In this case, the applicant is looking at paving 3 different portions of his property to make it more appealing. The applicant is requesting a $30,000 grant, which is over the eligible 50%. The agency offers, again, there's the attached document that shows the amount of dollars remaining in the grant funding budget. And if it pleases the agency, if you would consider approving a $30,000 improvement program grant request for 225 West Lockhart.
Just one question. In looking at the bids, the first one that was in the packet and then the one that you received today, they are comparable as far as what the work that was to be done?
Yes.
Okay. And also, Coal Bank Village, which is managed by the Devereaux Center, is at the end of that parking lot.
That's correct.
And there's been quite a bit of activity, wear and tear on that area.
Yeah, I think that area that you're considering is actually part of a city street, so that area actually won't get done. I think it's more the parking lot next to the building and the parking lot behind the building.
Okay.
The building improvements, it was a remarkable difference. That's the former Chambers Plumbing and Heating building, and you couldn't tell it now. It's the same building. And I would also say in relationship to Coal Bank Village, they've been excellent neighbors.
So just out of curiosity, we just talked about how improving these parking lots impacts our street, and our street actually will have some impact on the improvements that we're funding for him. Have we done anything to consider paving that ourselves?
The most difficult part you have is you have, I think, 130 lane miles of city streets, and I think 14 of those miles are gravel. It's difficult to keep up with the maintenance of the asphalt streets. We could pave some more gravel streets, but that would just limit the amount of money that you have to do your maintenance. The council has taken a very proactive stance on putting more capital improvement funds on our streets, and I think at this point in time, your goal is to improve those streets. I would say the 2 budgets that you approved tonight will include just a little over $6 million in street improvement projects for this next year. But that's not adequate to pave gravel streets yet.
All right.
I never thought I'd be so excited about asphalt. No one told me that when I signed up for this job, so it's very exciting, so.
Are there any comments from the agency?
It's better than talking about wastewater.
Fair enough.
true.
All right, then how would the agency like to proceed?
I'll move to approve the $30,000 improvement program grant request for 225 West Lockhart Avenue.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve the $30,000 improvement program grant for 225 West Lockhart Avenue. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carries. And the last grant request that we have is for 790 North Bayshore Drive.
Yes, Rick Stevens is the applicant for this, requesting an approval of a $100,000 improvement program grant for 790 North Bayshore Drive, which also has Front Street frontage. It's proposed as indoor and outdoor space for Front Street food trucks, with exterior space for up to 8 food trucks and outdoor seating. The spaces would provide a permanent place for the food trucks. The outside area would be improved with paving, including entrance apron, curb, and sidewalk. Power installation, water pedestals for each food truck, and addition of fencing and landscaping. A portion of the existing structure abutting Front Street would provide additional indoor seating, restrooms, and a beverage station. A number of structural upgrades are required to accommodate the proposed use and create a new storefront. The structural improvements include replacing existing roll-up door with a glass roll-up door, replace the existing man door, upgrade electrical, installing a heat pump system, and other upgrades related to egress, ingress, and compliance with current fire life safety issues regulated by the building code. The applicant's submittal provides additional operations details, and that's attached to your report. The applicant has provided bids received for most all the proposed improvements, and those are provided to you in the report. Based on the lowest bid of each of those elements, the project cost would be a minimum of just over $137,000. The applicant indicated they had been advised material costs will increase again by the middle of June. The applicant will fully fund the remaining elements of the project, which include interior improvements to the building to building code standards, landscaping, and permit costs. The applicant is requesting a $100,000 grant, which is 73% of the eligible expenses. However, the applicant funded improvements include costs not identified originally in the application. Project costs that fall outside the request, which are fully funded by the applicant, result in the $100,000 grant request being less than 50%, and actually the request is 40% of the project cost. Goals of the Urban Renewal District are to focus on curing blight and to add value to the tax base. This project accomplishes both goals through development of underdeveloped property fronting both northbound Highway 101 and Front Street. The proposed development will add value to both the existing building and the adjoining land area, thereby increasing the value to the overall tax base. If it pleases the agency, approve the $100,000 improvement program grant request for 790 North Bayshore Drive, subject to the conditions of approval noted in the architectural design review application.
All right. Does anyone have any questions, or do you have anything to add, Roger?
Well, I'll just go back to the fact that Front Street is been long desired to improve. That started in 1996 when the council at that time created the Front Street Master Plan. Number of things have occurred since that time, including when the Urban Renewal Agency purchased and then mitigated and then donated property to the History Museum, which allowed for that to be built there. Since that time, we've also taken a couple of other studies, but a lot of work's gone into improving and making Front Street a more diverse economy and more contributing portion of our city. A number of buildings have been purchased, several have been renovated. The property here was once a salvage yard and recycling center. It has had vast improvements under the current ownership, and you have a new business there, Real Deals, and this is just another business that's going to improve that. The applicant is here tonight, incredibly ambitious, hardworking applicant. He also owns a car dealership across the street from it. I'm not sure where he finds all the energy, but I'm excited about his development, and I think it'll be a great addition to Front Street.
I'm going to say it over and over again. I am so excited about this. In 2010, we brought the city of Astoria here, their city planners and developers, because we, the chamber and the cities were involved, talked about, hey, we could have a waterfront like this, and to see all the work that previous councils have done and this council has done, and then people like you, my friend, are willing to invest. I'm giddy, and I'm super excited, and thank you for your willingness to do this, and it's just going to improve the area. You know, I have a tourism hat on. I've been in the tourism industry for over 26 years, and we live in truly one of the last great places. And so for people to go down there and experience something at your facility and then see that beautiful waterfront and the history of that waterfront, it's just so exciting. So I'll stop now. Yep.
Are there any other comments? I did want to note that Councilor Matthews had to leave the meeting, but we still do have a quorum.
We do.
Did you have anything that you would like to add? It's Rick Stevens.
Rick Stevens, the owner of the property, and just again, a couple of, we've talked about it before in the last meeting, but you know, I think I'm really excited about this project, not only because it benefits Front Street, and then our main entrance for the food truck part is going to be off of Front Street, and I really think it's going to be a really cool addition to what we've got going on as a city in Front Street, but also the 101 improvement side. Right now, as you drive behind 101 there, it's kind of a weeded over gravel parking lot, and we'll get that all paved, and it's going to benefit, you know, the visual aspect, and then also the businesses that are there. There'll be new business growth as a direct result of this project. Some of it's already happened, and there's more to come. So just appreciate the consideration.
Thank you. Any other comments? I will say that I had the good fortune yesterday of judging some business students' capstone projects, and I actually got to an online meeting 30 minutes early, so there was nothing really to do for half an hour, so they asked some questions of me, and it was interesting because one of the things that we talked about is how things have changed. I've been here for a very long time. I grew up in a home that overlooked the waterfront, and it was very different when I would look out that window that many years ago. I really believe we're in a renaissance and a big positive change, and that's because we have a lot of people with vision coming up through the ranks, making investments in our community, and so that was just the comment that I was going to make. The students were very excited to see what's happening in our area, and some of them were not from this area, attending SWAC. So anyway, so that's my soapbox moment. Is there any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the $100,000 improvement program grant request for 790 North Bay Shore Drive, subject to any conditions of approval noted in the architectural design review application.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the program grant request for 790 North Bayshore Drive. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And at this stage, we have nothing else to come before the agency, so we will move into executive session, and I appreciate everyone that came tonight.
The City Council and Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Coos Bay will now meet in executive session pursuant